heard the angels calling me, what a heavenly sound. But then I heard old Albert singing about shaky ground. Feeling low and flying high, I didn't know what to do. 'Cause I had one foot in the circle and one foot in the groove. In the groove. Now was I checking out or was I checking in? Should I get my shit together, say goodbye to my friends? I might need John the Baptist, John the Conqueror, 'cause I got one foot in the circle.
I am Johnny Cash.
And one foot in the groove. Well,
I feel like I've known you forever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
We were struggling songwriters and hung out at the same building over there at Bob Beckham's.
Yeah, you were signed at Combine, and I was signed to a company on the second floor of the building there. It was a CBS-owned company. Although we saw each other around town some before this was around '68. When I know that's when I was signed with this company. So it was '68, '69 when I was with that company.
Yeah, that was when I was going down to the Gulf every other week.
Yeah, you still doing that?
I was flying helicopters on the offshore. My next assignment was to teach English Lit at the Academy at West Point. The people who were kind of my mentors in the Army, well, I thought that would be a great place for me to go because they said they'd take care of their own there and to West Point. But I went to Nashville on the way and just fell in love with this songwriting scene there and decided I was going to get out of the Army and go write songs. My family thought I was insane. And my peers weren't sure. The guys that I was in the Army with knew that that's what I wanted to do because I had a band in the Army when I was stationed in Germany. In fact, I had told a general who was a man that I really admired, General Larson, who was later made a name for himself over there in Vietnam. But right before I left Germany, he asked me about the West Point assignment and was I looking forward to it. And I said, well, you know, I might get out of the Army and be a songwriter. I might as well have said ballet dancer. I felt like it's not the thing you're telling the general, but he was great. He said, he looked at me and then he said, well, follow your heart. And it was
very cool.
Cool thing for a military man to say.
Yeah.
I had sort of nosed into the business when I was over at Oxford in England. I had worked with a guy in London and I had a record contract and almost they changed my name. and
what was that, Kris?
Kris Carson.
Carson, yeah. When did that Vietnam Blues come
Well, that was the first,
that was
when I first went to town, I got a record cut immediately before I even, because I had written a kind of a talking blues, like Woody Guthrie thing about a guy running into a demonstration about Vietnam. And it was from a soldier's point of view. But after that was cut, it was 4 years before I had any cut. Well, Roger Miller had recorded Bobby McGee, and it wasn't a big hit or anything for him, but it was Bobby Newirth, who was Dylan's roadie back in the Don't Look Back days, and songwriter, singer. He had was a friend of Janice's, and I think he worked with Albert Grossman, who was managing both Dylan and Janice. And he taught her the song before I met either one of them. I was down in Peru doing a movie with Dennis Hopper that he did right after Easy Rider. Crazy story. Anyway, when I got back, a photographer told me that Janice had sung the song at a concert she did in Nashville. And later on, just a few months later on, Bobby introduced me to her, Bobby Newirth, and we stayed at her house there for a month or so, out in Larkspur, California. Got very close, but I never heard her sing the song, and it was difficult to listen to because I'd never heard her singing it when she was alive. When I went down to see what had happened to her producer told me to come by the studio and played it for me that day. And as a matter of fact, I got to the point where I knew I was going to be hearing it on the radio because it was a hit. So I was listening to it one night over at this place that I was talking about where we used to hang out. And just listened to it over and over again so I could get steeled to it. So it wouldn't destroy me every time. Mm-hmm. And Donnie came in, the two of us were the only ones in the building, and we listened to it over and over again. And then we wrote a song called Epitaph. And
Why Was She Born So Black and Blue?
Why Was She Born So Black and Blue, yeah. It was, I put it on the album that I was cutting at the time. Yeah. My first gig was at the Troubadour in L.A., June 1970, and it went over so well. We were opening for Linda Ronstadt at the time. Mm-hmm. And Billy Swan and Dennis Lindy were my band. Billy called me up, Billy Swan, and said, Donnie's got a great little keyboard.
Now what he didn't tell you, Donnie couldn't play it. He left that part out.
No, it was great, and picked up Zalyanowski on the way, and he was crazy.
Wonderful.
The old Love and Spoonful guy. And Norman Blake, who's a great acoustic guitar player. Anyway, Donnie was there for the second gig on, and he was the only one who had never left. He was there the whole time.
Couldn't run me off.
Couldn't run him off.
I think that was it.
Hell, our fourth gig was the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
With 500,000 people who hated us. They were going to kill us. But they hated everybody there.
Yeah, that night they hated everybody.
They even hated Jimi Hendrix. It was awful. But I closed the set with it, me and Bob McGee, and walked off giving 500,000 people the finger. I know. And that's what we had at the time. When I started at the Troubadour, there was people giving us scripts all the time. In fact, Harry Dean Stanton, who used to sit around and sing with us, he brought me a script, a Cisco Pikes, it's called Dealer at the time. And he helped me do a screen test on it. And I got the gig, and it got me other jobs. It was not a great movie, but a lot of good people in it, like Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman, yeah.
Were you guys weren't in that, were you?
You know, we were just in some background thing when they had to have the band, you know.
Yeah.
Early, like a flashback band.
They used a lot of my music in there.
Oh, God. And we did the soundtrack, which was a real thrill.
Yeah.
It was like a dream come true, you know, to, first off, just working with Kris was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then to see one thing lead to another, you know, the hits started coming for him, and before, you know, I'd had a bunch of cuts of R&B stuff and everything. I was kind of struggling, as you say, but
it was an interesting combination, though, of music styles, though, because like Donnie said, he was from Muscle Shoals and familiar and making a lot of black music, and mine was more aimed at country, so it was a nice combination.
But you got to say, your country was your songs, Kris's songs, was like a whole new era of song, a whole new style of writing. I mean, you had just as I was getting kind of used to maybe listening to country music and really kind of getting into it, Kris comes along and changes the whole you know, way people looked at country music.
A lot of those, like Heaven Make It Through the Night, there was a resistance to the songs because there was such a conservative audience there in the country music capital of the world, wherever you lived. But I think really we were both just writing soul music.
Oh, absolutely.
That we felt deeply about, you know. When I got the possibility of working with Sam Peckinpah, I had just finished seeing Straw Dogs, which was a powerful film, and The Wild Bunch, and Ride the High Country. Those were probably still my favorite Peckinpah movies. The opportunity to play Billy the Kid in a film with all those great people. Every great country character actor seemed to be in that film, and Donnie Fritts as well. Sam took a liking to him, and I remember him saying, "There's more casting in that chair right there than pointing at Donnie."
I remember how nervous you were. You wouldn't even come to the set that day because you had no idea what was going to happen. You know?
Well, yeah, you were a big part of that scene there.
No, and the thing was, you know, I really didn't have any lines in it. So we started filming that one because I was nervous and had all these different things going, but Sam stops the filming. And of course, just about everybody else was there. Harry Dean and all these people watching this scene, probably to see what was going to happen in there. And he stopped the film and said, "Well, you know, you need to say something." And you know, and so he stopped filming. We went to his trailer. And he said, I tell you what you do. Just repeat what people say anytime you feel like it, you know.
And it really worked.
And so that was my part. I said, "Great, I won't have to
Private parts."
Private parts, you know. Of course, I had no idea about acting or how movies were made. He said, "We'll go up to the scene where Bob knocks Donnie out of the chair, you know, with a shotgun." I didn't know that was coming, you know. So it was a lot of tension and everything was involved with the scene and everything. But anyway, it was just a great experience.
I was scared to death. Sam liked to have a lot of tension on his set, and he had it. And it was usually because of, by the time I got along doing films with him, it was because of conflicts he was having with the studio and with the producers. And it was a pretty volatile atmosphere on there.
One time when we were filming Your Death Scene, we had me and Bob and I think it was Luke asked you had this kind of a long walk to come up to the porch where you've been shot, you know. And so, you know, I had the mark where I was supposed to be, and so all Sam could see was if something was wrong, he blamed it on me, you know. And he started screaming. I said, "Wait a damn minute, you know." I mean, of course, I would never talk back to him, but this was one time I knew I was right, you know. I said, Bob was supposed to lean against the post or something on the porch and I was standing beside him, something like that. I said, "So it really wasn't my fault." He said, "Well, if he does it again, knock his ass off the porch." So, like I wanted to knock the hell out of Bob Dylan.
Sure.
Yeah, like I would do that. But anyway, I mean, like I say, he was...
You know what was funny was what happened in that same scene. They were shooting it first. They were shooting sunset for sunrise, which meant you had a very, very narrow amount of time to film it, just to when the sun was just right, you know, just at the horizon, and really only time to do it once. And right when we were shooting it, this is the whole movie. In the background goes, they had decided to go jogging. Harry Dean and Bob Dylan went jogging through the scene. And when they came back, the set was just like, you could hear it up and drop. Nobody had the nerve to say anything to anybody. They were all just sitting there. And Sam says, "You just cost me, I forget how many, thousands of dollars." And he said this to Harry Dean. And Harry Dean said, "Sam, I was running after him, trying to stop him.
I was trying to
And
catch him.
Sam picked up this knife off of the table and threw it and hit the door right by Hardy. He was a violent man.
Well, he pulled a gun on me and Harry did.
Yes, and I had to go take it away from him.
Yeah, Chris had to come in.
They called me up in the middle of the night.
Harry and I just gone to visit him one day. You know, he was real sick. It was a Sunday. We weren't working. Walked up to his bedroom, and I mean, before we knew it, Sam had that gun right in front of us. I mean, you know, I said, Sam, it's Donnie, Harry, you know, and he kind of realized what had happened. He just fell back.
Yeah,
On the
he
bed,
was
you
in
know.
bad shape.
He was in real
very
bad.
sick.
So I went home and told Chris about it, and Chris went and took his gun, got his gun away.
He was a little kid. I just give it to me. He just acted like a little. Everybody was conscious of his trying to make something great. He wasn't just trying to go out and do a daytime job. He was trying to make a great piece of art. And he had to fight to do it because he was getting, the money people were on his back all the time. It was unfortunate in my eyes because I think that there's so much creative energy got wasted just fighting the studio and fighting the money people. I had a feeling that Sam was always trying to make a good film,
Yeah.
from the beginning.
That's all that mattered.
And I think it got harder for him as he got sicker, and the drinking got sometimes out of hand. And but it was always because he was fighting to make this beautiful picture.
Mm-hmm.
Sam had blind spots. I don't think that he ever really appreciated how great the soundtrack that Bob Dylan wrote was, because he had old friends who had had scored his films before, but the soundtrack was wonderful. When I saw that Knocking on Heaven's Door come up during Slim Pickens' death scene, it just blew me away. It was a perfect match of music.
That was one of the great scenes in the movie history. I think.
But you know what's also interesting was that the lines in it came from real life, where he says it's getting dark, too dark to see. They had sent a print of the scene down to Durango, and when we looked at it, it was too dark. And Sam went up and pissed on the screen. And I remember Bob looking over at me. He hadn't been to any dailies before, and he thought, "What have you got me into here? This is insane." I love Bob Dylan. I think he's, he was the songwriter of my lifetime. I think it probably had a bigger effect on songwriting than anybody. He affected the Beatles. He affected everybody. And he brought respect. So I figured that a Bob Dylan soundtrack for that thing, not that it was my decision, but I thought it was the best thing that could happen to the film, because he hadn't done the music for a film yet. And I think that was part of Sam's resentment, was he thought that the producers had brought Bob in to make the film commercial. But he loved, when Bob first got down there, he sang that song he'd written about Billy. And Sam made him play it all day long. He sat over there at the house and played that song over and over. Great song. Yeah, we hung out. I drank a lot of whiskey with him down there in Durango. Unfortunately, by the time we got to Convoy, I had gone on the wagon, and that kind of broke down communication between me and Sam for a while. I remember when they were going to fire him on Convoy, and I told them I would walk if they did, and so they didn't. And he came up to me on the set the next day at the Roadhouse restaurant, truck stop, and he came up behind me and said, "You son of a bitch, I was out of here." I said, well, you son of a bitch, you got me in here. You know, he had a whole band back there in a bus. He had Donnie was brother somebody.
Reverend Joshua Duncan Sloan, the same guy, the name of the guy in Cable Hope.
Yeah.
I saw Sam just about every time we were out, like, you know, we'd come out and rehearse and do shows or whatever, and I would always at least have dinner with Sam and had some great memories of that. And I'd always visit wherever he was working. In fact, one of my favorite memories, this may be moving along a little bit, but my wife was out with me one time, and we had dinner with Sam. We were talking about Cable Hogue, you know. I said, you know, that's the one movie of yours I haven't seen. He said, well, we'll see it tomorrow. So he arranged a screening room there at whatever studio we had an office. And me and Donna and Sam was between Donna and I, watched Cable Hogue.
Oh, wow.
And that was one of my great memories.
I'd love to work with him again, but I would just love to see him again. One of the unfortunate things about whiskey, about drinking and over drinking, is that it gets things very confused, and anger about something else can come up and make him lash out. Not just women, the people who work close with him. You know, that driver, remember?
Yeah. Well, just anybody, you know, he would lash out at people. Me.
He loved Donnie too. I can't imagine him yelling at you. It can be a yell when it's coming between those clenched teeth.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, yeah, God damn it.
Yeah, tremendous heart. Talent.
But the heart shows up in all his best films, and he's a pushover. You know, he's real softy inside. I think that's why he behaved so badly a lot of times. I think he was a soldier, which he was, a Marine, who was horrified by war. And the things that he was horrified were also the things that he was, that he had to examine, you know, in such close-up, slow-motion detail.
You know, I think one of the worst times that I saw him really misbehave or just in such bad shape was the day that we were doing the looping for Alfredo Garcia. Remember in what bad shape he was that day. In fact, you took him, if I'm not mistaken, you took him to get a tux for the Remember that for the thing that he got kicked out of later on that night?
Yeah, they had a big Hollywood function going on, and he was going to drive. I said, Sam, I begged him. We were over there getting his and renting his tux with him. And I said, you're going to take Isela, the girl who's in Alfredo Garcia, and you're going to be with a lot of people who really respect you. Don't blow it. Don't screw it up. He promised he would not. The next thing we see is the bartender's got him by the throat and is pulling him across the bar because he had insulted Jack Lemmon.
Jack Lemmon, yeah. Or whoever was there. Maybe it was Jack Lemmon. Yeah. It was a thing for James Cagney, if I'm not mistaken. The American Film Institute was honoring. And I think there was a picture of him in the paper the next day being taken. Bring me the head of Sam Peckinpah.
Bring me the head of Sam Peckinpah. I would hate to think that the movie business didn't have a place for Sam Peckinpah or John Huston or anybody who was really creative. But the process over the last 20 years has been one of money being more important really than anything else. And I keep thinking of when Michael Cimino went to Cannes, Auerbach, who was the head of the studio, had a big front page story the day that they were going to screen Heaven's Gate, saying that unless the money was taken out of the hands of the creative people, the industry was headed for disaster. I remember saying to him, who are you going to give it to? The uncreative people? You know, and his lawyer said, well, was it your money? You know, it
We were absolutely the luckiest people in the world.
Lucked into it at the beginning of the '70s and stayed in it. You know, it was
Yeah.
just, it was amazing to me that we weren't more amazed by the fact that we were working with people of caliber we were, you know, because we didn't come up through the system, you know, and pay our dues that way like we had done in music. All of a sudden, we were working with guys like that, Scorsese and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but with Sam here, I was living in Alabama 2 years after I saw the Wild Bunch in Alabama, and I loved all. I'm very well aware of Sam's movies, Riding High Country and Major Dundee, and then the Wild Bunch, of course, still one of my very favorite movies. But 2 years after that, right, maybe a little more than 2 years, we'd met him and was working with him. Which is
Thanks for honoring Sam.
exactly.
There were days of desperation when I wanted to end it all. And then I'd think of my sweet wife and I'd start walking tall. As long as I'm still kicking, I got nothing left to prove. 'Cause I got one foot in the circle and one foot in the groove. In the groove. Thank God I still got a groove. Yeah, I'm feeling better already. You know, I think I'm gonna live. Now that's a groove.